Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my next Hunter x Hunter arc review. Today we are going to be talking about Greed Island, which I just finished just yesterday with Rough Senpai's reactions. Um, so Greed Island, like the last arc, has a lot that went down in it, but overall it was kind of a lot calmer and more relaxed and more separated from a lot of the main stuff happening in the real world. Um, excuse me. um, but the stuff that still happened in it was still exciting, fun, and honestly important to what's going to happen in the future. We can tell that right away. So, before we get started, I do want to say there will be spoilers for Greed Island in this review. This is a spoilery review. I'm probably not going to go into every little detail, but there will be spoilers. So, just letting you know now. So, moving on for those who either don't mind or have seen it already or whatever else, let's get into this. So, Greed Island continues directly off of York New City arc. In York New City, they were trying to win the Greed Island game from the auction. Um, well, in this arc, they meet up with the guy who bought all copies of the game, Mr. Batera, a just insanely rich person. We don't I don't think we ever really find out what he does, either that or I forgot. All we know is just he's excessively rich. He spends like half his fortune just to get all of the games. So he ends up choosing to hire a bunch of hunters to go into Greed Island to try and complete it for him. He's offering a cash reward as long as any cards that they bring out, which I'll get to in a bit, anything that they bring out belongs to him. Um, so Gon and Killua end up going in and excuse me, end up going in and when they go into the game, it's like they're kind of their entire body and soul and everything is just transported in. Excuse me, I don't know why my throat keeps like getting scratchy there. But they're transported in and they basically just go. All these other people who are also hired by Mr. Batera are transported in as well. And it's kind of like, it almost seems like very fantasy like in its design and everything. You know, there's just like these kind of like grasslands and rocky mountainous areas, but then you got like these quaint little towns and villages and stuff, and it seems very almost like kind of this fantasy world, but at the same time you understand that like kind of takes place in like more modern day, and you see little hints of that throughout the world, um, throughout Green Island. But anyways, so the characters, like all of the characters who came in as part of Mr. Patera's group, as well as some hunters who were already there, they start to form an alliance. Um, and Gon and Killua are asked to join, but Gon refuses. He wants to do this on his own. See, Greed Island was created by his father, Gene, and he wants to be able to beat it without needing to rely on others. And that will be important later. So, um, so the other group continues doing their thing while Gon and Killua go off and do their own. And the main point of the game is there's this binder that they can summon within the game where they collect cards. The cards do different things. Each card does a different thing, but you have to collect 100 different cards, all 100 to win. It's It seems simple, but it's not because a lot of the cards are very rare, and a lot of the hunters and everyone in the game are going to be purposefully trying to steal your cards. There are cards actually made for the purpose of stealing other cards from people and stuff. Um, so it kind of comes down. It's a very cutthroat game. Um, and in the end, no one's ever defeated it. No one's ever beaten the game. It's been around for 10 years, and it's just gone completely undefeated. Um, But as we go through the arc, different things kind of start to come to light. We see the Phantom troops start to make their way into the game, looking for someone who might be able to help restore Krollo's uh, Nen usage. And we see the group that had formed before. We find out that there's this character in it who was a spy, kind of. Well, not really a spy. That sounds a lot. That makes it sound like he was working for someone. He had infiltrated the group, and he was this horrifying bad guy known as the Bomber, who could use his Nen to kill people with bombs that he places on them, which he demonstrates pretty brutally. There's also a new character introduced who is one of the people hired by Mr. Batera to go into the game. Her name is Biscuit Kruger. She ends up being the master of Wing, the guy who trained Gon and Killua in Nen back at Heaven's Arena. And she looks like this little lolly girl, but she's actually like, I think it's 56 years old or something like that. Um, and she actually uses her Nen to hold that form because she hates the way she looks in reality, and it's hilarious. Um, but I'll get to that more later as well. But she is definitely one of the more interesting characters. I liked her entire thing in training them, and just her personality. She's very funny, very goofy. She acts like a kid sometimes, but then other times you can tell she's much older and much more experienced. Plus, her mastery of Nen is obviously practically genius. And although Gon and Killua, especially Killua, aren't really sold on her at first, they very much become true students to her throughout the arc, and by the end are super respectful towards her. Like they both value her teaching extremely highly. Because they understand that it's like, oh yeah, she very much helped us. She her training was very much useful, and she definitely knew what the fuck she was talking about. um, but yeah, we also meet there the bomber as well. His name is Genthru, and there's actually three bombers, him and his two associates. Um, and Genthru is kind of like this very psychotic, but kind of cool psychotic character. Like he holds it in well most of the time, and he's very suave and cool about it. But he's a psychopath. He is, and it's interesting. He's a great villain for the arc, and he makes it very exciting to see what's going to happen, to see how he's going to be defeated. In fact, we actually know from pretty early on how his Nen ability works, and even how to disarm it. You just have to touch him and say, "I found," or it's "I found the bomber," or "I caught the bomber." I think it's "I caught the bomber." But the problem is, doing so is difficult because he's an extremely advanced, extremely powerful Nen user. So being able to do that is hard to do, especially since he can use another type of bomb other than just like putting a timer bomb on you. He can use another type of bomb called Little Flower that basically just is a touch bomb. He just touches you and it explodes. So it's like, geez. And on top of that, again, they're trying to collect all the cards, so there's a lot going on with that. Gon and Kilo are training with Biscuit Kruger, who goes by the name of Bisky for short. Um, they're getting stronger and learning new ways to use their nen. The group who had come before, who had like aligned themselves at the beginning, end up being killed by the bomber, except for one guy who escapes because he has a nen ability that can remove other people's nen from himself or others, which is actually what the Phantom Troop are looking for. So yeah, that comes into play as well. And then there's this part that almost feels like it takes a break from all of that stuff with the bomber, but actually it's really important. Um, they find a this seaside town or whatever, and in order to get one of the cards, they have to like convince this group of pirates to leave the town. So they go into where the pirates are, and the pirates are led by this guy named Razor. And in order to clear this event, they have to beat the pirates in sports of all things, like all these different sports games, and it's super ridiculous, but in the best way. And Gon and them, like they have to have a 15-person group, so they gather a group at first, and their first try doesn't work out, so they gather another group, and part of the group is Hisoka. So that's fun. We get to see Hisoka team up with Gon and Killua, and it's great because Hisoka is in Greed Island to help try to find this person who can remove Nen in order to help get Crollo's Nen back because he wants to fight Crollo. um, just continuing off of the last arc. So they do these different sports, and it mostly comes down to this dodgeball game at the end. And we find out that the leader of the Pirates, Razor, is actually one of the creators of the game, um, which we were kind of told beforehand, but like we really get more info on it here, because we find out that Greed Island's actually a real place. That when you are put into the game, you're actually just being teleported to another place via Nen. But it's an island that you can't get to outside of going into the game, because if you try to get onto it, like the Phantom Troop did at first, if you try to just go onto it normally, you will be stopped and sent away by Razor or presumably someone else who helped make the game. So yeah, we find out Razor is one of the creators of the game, and that he was actually a prisoner, a really heavy criminal, saved by Geen, or Gene, sorry. I don't make that mistake that often. A lot of people have, but I actually haven't. But I actually made it right there. Okay. But he was saved by Gene, and he helped Gene create Greed Island. Um, and he's been waiting here basically for Gon because Gene had told him to. And so this dodgeball match, they use Nen and everything, and it's a really exciting match. Like the kind of bullshit they do in it is amazing. In the end, they do manage to win, and Hisoka and Killua are key to this. It's mostly those three: Hisoka, Killua, Gon. Those three are key to this entire match, and they do amazing. Like they're working with this other guy named Sesgara, who was very much like closely connected to Mr. Batara, the guy who sponsored them to go into the game and all. In fact, Sesgara was the guy who had to basically accept the people who were going to work for Mr. Patera to go into the game. He was actually directly accepting the people. But they worked for him. He helped, but he wasn't super necessary. There's these other people who helped as well, but it was mostly down to those three. And they do manage to win against all odds by mostly using their intellect because they definitely are not as strong as Razor. Um, and yeah, they win, they pass the event, and they get the card they were looking for. Meanwhile, the bomber is still doing all kinds of evil shenanigans, gathering up cards, sniping people who go into the shops, like sniping as in like trying to like hunt them down and take their cards and shit and force them to work for him. I'm not talking like actually like sniper gun. um, but yeah, and eventually our heroes have to face him. And it comes down to our main three at this point: Gon, Killua, and Bisky, since uh, Hisoka went off to do his own thing again. And they fight off the three bombers. Gon taking on Genthru, the leader, which makes sense. And then Killua and Bisky taking on the others. Killua and Bisky just annihilate the other bombers with ease. And this is where we see Bisky's true power, or at least a hint of her true power. We find out about her real form, that she holds this like small little girl form, but in reality she's this giant JoJo-esque, super buff, uh, physical specimen of a person. And she definitely looks older, more closely, like realistically her age, 56. And she just pummels the shit out of this dude, and it's amazing. Um, but yeah, they take care of them easily. Gon, meanwhile, is not doing well against Genthru, to put it simply. Genthru is so much stronger than him, like it's not funny. But Gon had planned out this trap for Genthru along with the others and set something up to the point where he's doing everything he can to make sure that trap is sprung, despite not being able to do anything else. It succeeds, the trap is sprung, they capture Genthru and stop him. And they stop him so heartedly, he actually just gives up. He gives up and he accepts their terms and they work together. He's just like, I just have one condition. Please heal Bara here, who's one of the other bombers. Please heal him. Do that. I accept all your other conditions. And they do it. And they heal all of them because that was always their plan because they're good people. um, but yeah, it's like, honestly, some people might find that as a little bit anticlimactic of a conclusion, but I actually liked it. I actually felt that it worked for the characters because we knew Gon was not going to be strong enough to actually defeat Genthru. So I actually liked them using their wit to stop them. Killua and Bisky, yeah, they could stop the other two with ease, but Genthru was still just leagues above the other two. So even, well, Bisky might be able to stop Genthru, but might. But Killua definitely wouldn't have been able to. And either way, I like the way it turned out. Um, and during the fight with Genthru, though, Gon sacrifices an entire arm. Like, it's just blown the shit off. And, like, he has a stump. It is really graphic and horrifying. And his other arm is massively injured. It has, like, this massive burn mark around the wrist, and it's, like, just mangled pretty much. And it's like, oh my God. Just, oh my God. Um, but they use this card in the game called Breath of Archangel, which is basically the ultimate card. It heals any physical, mental injury kind of thing. It's just like perfect healing. They use it to completely heal Gon's injuries. They heal Bara you because they use the card. They clone the card and also can be used multiple times. They heal Bara. They fix everything. And in the end, the only thing left is like, oh, you guys have gained 99 cards, so here's the big event that everyone knows about for the 100th card. You have to take a quiz, and it's all about all the other cards and shit. And Gon wins. Everyone takes it separately. There are these other hunters around who are trying to take it, and it's like, oh, they even put up this deal. It's like, oh, if we can beat you, if one of us wins, just split your prize money with us. And we want to help you with this. You'll get the card no matter what, but just split your prize money with us. And they accept. Gon and them accept. Although the prize money isn't quite going to happen that way. And I'll get to that in a moment. Um, but yeah, so they take the quiz though, and Gon does win though, so they don't have to split the prize money. And that takes them into the next arc and everything, and I'll get to where that goes in a moment. But while all of this had been going on in the real world, in the I'm going to call it the real world for sake of ease. In the real world, Mr. Batera had found out that his young lover had died. And we find out that she was the only reason he was doing all of this with Greed Island, why he had spent half his fortune to buy these games, why he'd been sending everyone in. He had been doing it entirely for her because she had come down with this illness. And since you could take three cards out of the game with you, any three cards, he wanted someone to bring out Breath of Archangel for him so that he could use that to heal her because he did truly love her. And so when we see him broken down and distraught after she had already passed away and everything, it's actually really fucking sad, and you actually really feel for the guy. Because prior to this, it's like you didn't really have enough information to know what to think of Mr. Batera. But here it's like you just get this sudden like blast of information and depth, and it's like, oh, you actually feel bad for this guy. It's like he just wanted to heal the woman he loved. He just wanted her to live, and now he's distraught over failing at that. So he basically the entire prize money that was going to go to the hunters is called off at this point. Um, but some of the other hunters who are there managed to get something done. So there's at least a little bit of a prize money to everyone else. Says Gera and his group get a prize, and this other guy, Garenu, who had helped out with Gon and Kilo's plans and stuff, and had given them help in like the pirate games and whatnot. Um, they get like 4 billion Jenny, which he gets 4 billion. He splits it. He gives the other three 1 billion each to Bisky, Gon, and Killua, which is extremely fair. And Garenu's a cool dude, so yeah, all good. But meanwhile, after getting the card, Gon and Killua and Bisky, they head to the capital. Gon meets with two more of Gene's friends who helped create the game, and he gets this little binder that he can take with him to the real world in order to bring back any three cards he wants. And so he, Killua, and Bisky decide, okay, we're gonna split that. Each of us gets to choose one card. Bisky wants this really rare gem. That's literally all it is. It's just a really rare gem. She thinks it's really pretty, and it's a really fucking rare gem. But Gon and Killua use the other two slots for this little plan in order to get to Gene. And at the end of the arc ends with them using this plan. In the real world, Gon uses the card to send him and Killua off to where Gene should be. And the arc ends with them seeing this figure under the tree who might or might not be Gene. And that's it. That's where the arc ends. The next arc continues off of that right away. But I'm not going to talk about that here. So this arc was really fun. I like the premise of this game. And I thought that the entire card rule thing was handled well, and it was really interesting. There were so many very interesting cards that did all these kinds of things, whether to travel, to steal cards, to protect your cards, or whatever else. Bisky and her training in Nen with Gon and Kilo was fantastic. Definitely a highlight of the arc for sure. The pirate battle, though, was the best part of the arc for me. Razor was such a fun character, a great character, and he just instantly comes off as one of the strongest characters we've seen in this show by far. Um, and it's like just seeing them have to basically outwit him is fantastic. And also, of course, getting to see Hisoka teaming up with Killua and Gon is just as fantastic. Now, this arc didn't obviously feature Leorio or Karapika. They were off doing their own thing during all of this, which kind of sucks. Yeah, it's like I want to see more of them, obviously, but I understand why this one focused on the other three. Oh, and during all this, I forgot to mention there was this small, like, one episode thing where it's by the way, it was time for the hunter exam again. Killua never passed because he got disqualified last time. So he went off, he left the game temporarily to go take the hunter exam, and he passed it in the first phase because he basically took out all of the other uh, people competing, every other person, including Tonpa, who was there again. Um, we saw this guy from the this appraiser from the York New City arc. I can't remember his name right now. And we saw a couple other characters who were in the previous Hunter exam and stuff. But Killua just took them all out. And so the examiner, who I don't think we got a name for him, he just calls Netero. And it's like, what do we do? Like, he's the only one left. And Netero's like, oh, yeah, just let him pass. He's a hunter now. We know he's good. He's good. Netero's great. But yeah, so Killua is officially a hunter now, along with Gon. It's like we knew this was going to happen. We did. But it's good to actually see him get it. And I'm almost kind of glad as well that they didn't focus on that too much because it's like we really didn't need it to. I think it's actually smart the way that they just had Killua take everyone out and complete it in one phase. I think it works better that way, personally. Um, but yeah, this arc was really cool. It definitely set up a lot for the future arcs, and it took a lot from previous arcs as well. We get to see Killua use his new Lightning Nen ability, but still not having perfected it yet. And Gon still has a secret ability that we don't know about. But on top of that, he has another ability he learned using rock, paper, scissors of all things to be able to power up his punches and all. Like rock is a punch, paper is supposed to shoot an energy wave of Nen, and scissors is supposed to cut shit, like obviously, like slice boulders and shit. It's a really fascinating and cool idea of how to use rock, paper, scissors in a battle shonen like this. Um, there's just so much that this arc did that was just fantastic. I know this review is long, longer than normal for these reviews, but there was a lot to talk about. So tell me in the comments below what you thought of the Greed Island arc of Hunter x Hunter, and when I finish the Chimera Ant arc, which is next, I'll get back to you with another review. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.